It is a great honor and privilege to be here with Mr. Harry Wilkinson and the Riverhead Kiwanis Club. I want to thank him for hosting this auspicious event. And I want to thank the Riverhead Rotarians, the Lions Club members, and the Key Club, Interact, and Leo Club. It is actually pretty amazing to have them come out to see. It's very interesting to have you come out and see how local political government functions, and you guys all did a great job speaking. So there might be a future supervisor in there. We're still looking for the first female supervisor. As always, it is humbling to be here to speak with you about the state of the town. But before we get started, I want to thank the Sesses. I want to thank Frank, his daughter Danielle, Jackie, and the rest of the family for bringing the Birchwood back to life. Could we give them a hand? This place has never looked so good. The food is fantastic, and we really do appreciate you hosting us this year. So on to the more mundane tasks. It is not easy task to be the town supervisor. However, it is a job that I truly love and hope that you find me worthy of. I want to start by reading a passage from the book of Genesis. Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and govern. We, the residents of the town of Riverhead, were created to be productive, multiply, and govern. Every profession known to man, from politician to priest to farmers to the fine men and women of our police department, every profession is encapsulated in this. Each and every one of us has a calling. You may be a priest, you may be a minister, you may be somebody working in the trades, but you are all called to do your best. I am reminded by sociologist Robert Bellah in his book, Habits of the Heart, that there are three attitudes people have towards their work. The first treats their work as a job. When you see your work strictly as a job, as a way of paying bills, if your main focus is what you receive from work, you will most likely resent it. The second group approaches work as a career. Here your motivation will be higher. However, your focus is on advancement and prestige. That means, however, when your career isn't going well, you feel like your self-worth is on the line. There are people very close to me on the town board and elected officials that judge themselves by being an elected official. It is a very dangerous thing to define yourself by your career, especially if you're an elected official. The third group sees their job as a calling. Now, logically speaking, if there's a calling, there must be somebody making the call, right? Right? For me, that someone is God. That call often comes as a gentle pull at your heartstrings. Anyone that sees their work as a calling, no matter what the job is, they know it has purpose, it has true meaning. The level of the job and what you do for a living is irrelevant. You could be a doctor or a pastor, and you might get sucked into treating your job as a job, a way of making a good income. You will never be fulfilled that way. It's just a job if you think of it that way. On the other hand, a garbage collector may view what he does in the world as making it a cleaner place. In other words, he treats his job as a calling. So why do I say this? Is there a point? There are people here in this room, I know because you criticized me for it, that think politicians run for public office because they have large egos, because they think nobody else can do the particular elected official's job. They like the prestige, they like what goes into being a politician. But for me, I view this job as a ministry. I value the act of serving people. I honestly view the position as town supervisor as a way for me to help others. The interesting part is that when I embark upon another election year, I realize it's never been about my ego to run for town supervisor, but rather my desire and willingness to truly help other people. It is not something that is ingrained to me that I have to be town supervisor. I truly believe it is God calling me, and I want each and every one of you to understand that as I go through the journey in the next 9 months in a quest for re-election, however the voters decide, I will be fine. God put us in this position to serve others, and it's been my honor, and it continues to be my honor. My staff and I are truly blessed by the positions God has placed us in to serve. Now on to the business of the town. When I came into office, there were 3 main goals. The goals haven't changed. However, we've made amazing strides in achieving them. The first is the budget. When we took office, the budget was, the financial audits were 2, 10, and 25 years behind. We had deficits of $5.5 million. The second, of course, is EPCAL. EPCAL, we coined the phrase, Mr. Coates did it, the place where bad ideas came to die. We had ski mountains and racetracks. There was no end to the madness. The third was Main Street. We inherited a business district that had an 80% vacancy rate. So I want to focus the state of the town on where we are on these 3 important goals, and then discuss some exciting things on the horizon. Because I am confident that these goals will be achieved shortly. Specifically, we will have a balanced budget. There will be at least 1 significant land sale at EPCAL to create good-paying jobs, and we will complete the revitalization of Main Street. It hasn't been an easy path. And I can tell you from my perspective, it's been a very long journey. It is interesting that I've only been in office for 5 years. Quite honestly, some days it feels like a lifetime. So let's begin where we started, with the budget. The town of Riverhead is on the right path. For the first time since Supervisor James Stark occupied this office as town supervisor, we, I believe, are 1 year away from a truly balanced budget. This has not been an easy task. Over the past several years, we shed more than 10% of the workforce. Staff reductions have been done through attrition and sometimes through layoffs. When I was first elected, there were about 330 employees in the town. We're now down to 289. And unfortunately, we may not be done. The budget in 2016, in my estimation, is about $1.5 million from being balanced. Now that's a far cry from $5 million that we were in 2010, but it's still not balanced, but it will be. For the past several years, I've had a 5-year budget plan. It's been in my head, and through the work with Bill Rothar, we've actually put it out on a timeline. The balanced budget is within our grasp. We've been diligently working with the town board to meet our fiduciary goals. It's been a race from the beginning to get EPCAL subdivided, or quite frankly, run out of fund balance. As I've said before, the last time the town's budget was balanced was Jim Stark. Since then, the town has lived on one-shot revenues. The good news is we're weaning our way off reliance on one-shot revenues, and fund balance is a way to balance the checkbook. You can be very proud of the residents. The residents can be very proud that we are now on what I call a pay-as-you-go system. We no longer have to bond to maintain our roads. We no longer have to bond to purchase police cars. We no longer have to bond for small capital projects. And yes, Alan, we are going to do a little renovation of your Justice Court. It's not what you want, I'll get you there. We no longer have to bond for the things that we were using to fund the day-to-day expenses of the town. And all the while, we have reduced the reliance on our administrative chargebacks. So I'm proud to say we're about $1.5 million off being balanced, but our work is not done. Through the efforts of our town board, and I specifically want to call out Councilman George Gabrielson, we are going to realize an additional $600,000 a year in rental income for solar energy projects at EPCAL. That is an amazing starting point. These lease payments are only going to go up. One of the things that was critical to me when I was preparing for the 2015 budget was to make sure the residents of this town received their rebate checks from Albany. In order to receive those rebate checks, the town had to stay within the tax cap for 2015. Some people's perspective, it was easier to raise the taxes by 16%. I think Newsday made me the poster child of bad pictures and problems with our budget. Raising the taxes in an off-year election would have been the coward's way out. You can see what happened in towns to the west of us where they snuck tax increases in, or other towns where they just increase the taxes year after year after year. I will not do that to you. I will not do that to the residents of this town. The town has to remain competitive. If we are ever going to attract businesses at EPCAL, competition and being competitive is imperative. I repeat, I will not raise the taxes and look to be unstable to those that may be seeking EPCAL for the future home of their business. So we've kept ourselves within the 2% tax cap. The residents of the town, I received mine last week, probably all have received yours, have received their rebate check from Albany. But it's not over. We have to do other things by June of this year. We have to submit to the state of New York a budget plan that reduces spending by another 1%, which equates to approximately $300,000. Now I want to remind everybody, over the past 5 budgets that I prepared with the town board, spending has only increased in this town an average of 1% a year. I also want to point out that the explosion of tax base on Route 58 has been an amazing windfall to the residents of the town of Riverhead. Not only do we have wonderful shopping and beautiful stores in a bucolic area, but Route 58 represents over 15% of the town's tax base. What does that mean to you, you ask? That means to the average taxpayer of Riverhead, $800 to $1,200 savings in their taxes each and every year. And that is because of the tax base on Route 58 and the growth. There's only 3 ways to fix a budget. It's not that complicated. The first way is to grow your way out. The second way is to save your way out. And the third is to increase taxes. This town board has remained true to the propositions that we will cut the size of government while increasing our tax base. For that, I am extremely grateful. We have to be very careful not to increase taxes beyond the tax cap. We have to be very diligent in cutting the size of government and reducing our debt. As I've said, we've reduced the workforce by over 10%. But we have to be steadfast in our resolve to grow the size of the Riverhead economy. The economy of Riverhead, in my estimation, is the fastest growing economy in Suffolk County. We have seen the largest growth in Route 58, and that has added a tremendous amount of taxes to the coffers of the town. So you as residents don't have to pay additional taxes. But here's the thing, folks. As I said, we have to cut another 1% or $300,000 out of our budget. So there's a couple of things we've done, and there's a couple of things I'm going to propose tonight. Government or institutions tend to serve themselves even if they're set up to serve others. I'm going to repeat that again. Institutions, whether they be government or other institutions, tend to serve themselves, even if the sole purpose was for that institution or government to be set up to serve the people. I say this because one of the most difficult things that I am going to do, and that we are going to do right now, is change the face of government. We have been very successful over the past years combining the building and planning departments into one department, reducing the size of the workforce and eliminating 3 positions in the building planning department. We've been very successful in combining the garbage districts, the yard waste facility, the municipal garage under the town engineer, which equates to a $70,000 a year savings in the town general fund. But as I said, more has to be done. We are very fortunate to have department heads that have stepped up to shoulder additional responsibilities. You see, this institution of government should not exist solely to feed itself or elected officials. It should not exist to grow exponentially over the years. Government was created to serve the people, to make our lives better for the people. So in the upcoming months, I'm going to be submitting to the town board a proposal to create under a local law a sole assessor, a deputy, and to combine the tax receiver's office into the town clerk's office, while all at the same time preserving key professionals within each office. This consolidation is going to be met with an uproar of people telling me it cannot be done. You see, government and some elected officials tend to serve itself and themselves. Government doesn't always serve the people. Change is hard. I'm not afraid of the challenge. We can do this consolidation and not one taxpayer sitting in this room or in town hall will see any change. We can create efficiencies that will save the town $150,000 a year, each and every year. Over the next few months, you are going to hear more from me about the consolidation of these offices, as well as the elimination of an elected board of assessors and the creation of a sole assessor and a deputy. Again, these moves save the town $150,000 a year. That's halfway to the $300,000 we have to save to obtain the rebate checks next year for all the residents of Riverhead. We will attain that goal of $300,000, and the residents of Riverhead will again be blessed with another rebate check from Albany. So I guess the natural question is, how do we attain the next $150,000 a year? This is a bit more trickier. If you think the first one was difficult, this one's going to be even more difficult. I've spoken about this before, and my solution is to combine the Riverhead Highway Department located on Route 58, the Riverhead Municipal Garage located on Route 58, the Buildings and Grounds Department located on Pulaski Street, and the New York State Department of New York State Department of Transportation located on Route 58 into one single facility at EPCAL. I know it sounds radical, but government has to make radical decisions at this point. We cannot just stand by and operate as we have normally done. You see, the people of Long Island are voting every day with their feet as they march off Long Island. The young adult population of Long Island is in severe decline. They're not interested in our old ways. They're not interested in our taxes. They're not interested in the fact that they can't get jobs. And they're not interested in us not being competitive. If we can't keep Long Island competitive by keeping the taxes in check and creating good-paying jobs, we will become the Rust Belt of the Northeast. So to that end, I will be reaching out to Governor Cuomo and our other elected officials to work through a proposal to combine all these facilities at EPCAL. Now on to probably the most difficult thing that I have to do this week. Town of Riverhead needs to preserve its credit rating. It's irrelevant, you understand, if it's downgraded from a taxpayer standpoint. We have not bonded anything. We don't need to bond anything. Quite frankly, if we had a very low bond rate, credit rating, it wouldn't matter because we're on the pay-as-you-go system. The problem here is we need to look competitive for everybody that looks at EPCAL or even comes to downtown or Route 58. So you see, Moody's and Standard & Poor's don't necessarily like it when a municipality burns through cash to stabilize taxes. In fact, the credit rating services would rather us increase taxes 6% a year, put a lot of money in the reserve fund, and let the government have more cash than it needs. I do understand why they believe that way. I understand that for most cases, you can't have a municipality burn through all of its cash and maintain a good credit rating. But Riverhead is different. Riverhead is sitting on a $100 million asset at EPCAL. And the fact is, I could not in good conscience raise taxes on the residents of the town of Riverhead while I know that we have a $100 million asset. So this Friday, February 27th, my staff and I will be heading to Moody's to detail our 5-year budget plan for the town, to lay out a path for the subdivision of EPCAL, to show them that offers have come in unsolicited, and to make them understand that we are like no other town in New York State. We are probably the only town in the Northeast sitting on an asset that's conservatively worth $100 million. You will demonstrate that we are solvent by explaining our fund balance policy, explaining our spending rate has increased at less than the rate of inflation, 1% over the past 5 years. And I know in my heart of hearts, we will maintain our credit rating. Over the past 5 or 6 years, not only has the town faced tremendous deficit in its federal general fund, but it's also faced a $4.5 million deficit in the Community Preservation Fund. You see, previous administrations spent money like drunken sailors. It was as if the town had a giant credit card and all we had to do was pay the minimum balance. Well, I am pleased to say we have a solution, a very real solution to the CPF deficiency. The bottom line is we borrowed too much money. Our debt service is roughly $5.8 million a year. We're only bringing in $2 to $2.5 million a year in CPF funds. How do we solve that problem? Well, we correct it with the help of Assemblyman Fred Thiel, Assemblyman Anthony Palumbo, and our good friend Senator Kenneth Laval. Assemblyman Thiel is going to place legislation before the state to extend the CPF program for another 20 years. In a nutshell, that means there will be a referendum this November to extend the CPF program 20 years. This referendum will be specific to the town of Riverhead. It will allow the town to automatically refinance all of our CPF debt through the Environmental Facilities Corporation. We won't have to go to Wall Street to issue bonds to refinance our debt. We won't have to do anything but go to the Environmental Facilities Corporation to refinance the debt. The refinanced debt will be applied against the credit of New York State, not the town of Riverhead. If we refinance our debt just an additional 10 years, the CPF debt service will be brought down to $2.7 million. And as I said, we're currently bringing in between $2 and $2.5 million. So somewhere between 10 and 20 years, we will refinance all of our CPF debt and bring the debt service in line with the revenues we receive. That, my friend, solves our last budgetary problem. So let's talk about the next item on the list, EPCAL. As I've said before, this was a place where bad ideas have come to die. We are at an amazing juncture at EPCAL. For the first time in the history of the town owning the property, we're about to have a subdivision that will enable the town to sell the remaining buildable lots at EPCAL. I know the subdivision doesn't sound glitzy or glamorous. It's not artists' renderings on easels. It's not like some new business coming to town like Canon or Symbol, but it's the first step, a very necessary step, in putting the remaining 600 acres of buildable property in the private sector's hands. It was my hope back in 2011 that the property would be subdivided within 2 years. I might have been a little optimistic there. 4 years later, I stand here today and say it's almost done. The environmental impact statement is finished. The finding statement should be on the desks of the town council members in the next few weeks. And we will be in a position to adopt our final environmental impact statement. The zoning code is largely written. Public hearings will be held on the zoning code and the urban renewal plan. And the town board will put the finishing touches on the Enterprise Park at Calverton. We will be open for business. This is not a coming soon sign for election purposes. What does that mean to the average taxpayer of Riverhead? It means that we are in a good position to create good, high-paying jobs for the residents of Riverhead. Not just service industry jobs that were created on Route 58, but high-tech industrial jobs, jobs tied to the medical field, as well as jobs tied to science and research. What we have embarked upon is a high-tech industrial subdivision that does not reinvent the wheel. A subdivision that is modeled after places like Brookhaven National Lab, Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories, and Stony Brook University. A subdivision that is going to tie into the best of the town of Riverhead, the county of Suffolk, and Long Island. I can almost hear the excitement. I can almost hear the offers coming in. I have often joked that our ship will come in. Well, the ship is in the harbor, but how we act as a town board over the next year will determine if that ship docks or it moves on to the next harbor. We're almost there. I promise you this. I and we, the town board, will not embark upon foolhardy endeavors such as ski mountains and polo ponies. I am only interested in creating jobs that keep Long Islanders on Long Island. You see, it seems to me over the past decade, the fastest growing sector of the economy has been government. Something is wrong when government is the fastest growing employment sector. We need to reverse that. We need to be able to keep young adults like my son Zachary, who just turned 21, here in Riverhead, offering them the opportunity for a job that pays well. We are in the midst of hiring a firm named Pataki Cahill to help us market the project and vet applications that come through the door. The excitement is real. I have to confide in you, we have had offers that are significant. EPCAL will rise up and be the economic engine of all of eastern Suffolk County. EPCAL will once again be the shining star for Suffolk County and Riverhead. And everybody in this audience and everybody in this town should be proud of the efforts this town board has done to stay the course and get EPCAL subdivided, to build a lasting tax base for the residents of Riverhead and the residents of Suffolk County. Downtown Riverhead, our final point, is on an amazing trajectory of growth. When I took office early on, Newsday reported that it was as if Supervisor Walter was somehow going to will downtown back to life. I love this quote. Will, you got to come up with another good one. I wish it were true. I wish I could will downtown back to life, but we all know that's not reality. That being said, we know what reality is. We know that the Hyatt Hotel and Long Island Aquarium are doing well. We know that Paravel and Sonoma Grill are coming to town. We know that the Woolworth Revitalization Project is done and has added 19 new apartments to Main Street, complementing Summerwind's 52 apartments. We know that Conifer is coming downtown to add apartments that are geared towards artisan and culinary fields. We know that great things are happening downtown. The Suffolk Theater is on fire, bringing acts like Arlo Guthrie and Edgar Winter to Main Street, bringing people to experience our wonderful town. We know it is working. All you have to do is look at the success of Patchogue to see where Riverhead is going. Patchogue has always been our sister city. All you have to do is feel the excitement of Patchogue to know what is coming to Riverhead. Now, there have been a couple projects that I've been working on, one of them for 16 months. It hasn't come to fruition yet. But when it does, I guarantee you it's going to knock your socks off. Even if we did nothing downtown, that engine has left the station. Downtown is coming back. There's nobody that's going to change that. Everything is moving in the right direction downtown. I'm also happy to say that we're going to have another group help us out downtown. Curtis Lewa and the Guardian Angels will be coming to help patrol downtown in the immediate vicinity. You see, we have to make our community safe for everyone, not just a select few. It has been difficult over the past several years to reach out to the Hispanic community. We have hired Spanish-speaking police officers. We have trained officers to speak Spanish. We've been to their churches. However, that's not enough. I believe the addition of the guardian angels to Riverhead is a good thing. Let me correct that. It's a great thing. So, hopefully, in the next few months, you're going to see this. We are on our way in Main Street. It will not be denied. I am happy, although I do wish every store was full now, but I know in the not too distant future, every store will be full. Main Street's future is looking bright. Over the past 5 or 6 years, there have been other projects that we have been working on. They may not be sexy projects, but they are worthy to talk about. We are going to protect our environment and preserve our groundwater. I want to turn your attention to the Riverhead Sewage Treatment Plant. The Riverhead Sewage Treatment Plant is undergoing an upgrade that is going to reduce nitrogen discharge into the Peconic Estuary by 77%. Projects such as these protect our environment and our way of life. It is even more exciting than that. Superintendent Michael Reichel embarked upon a plan that started some 20 years ago to discharge the effluent from the Riverhead Sewage Treatment Plant to irrigate the Indian Island Golf Course. The irrigation project was just approved by Suffolk County, and it is currently under construction. This will protect our environment, this will protect our bay, and once again, the town of Riverhead is on the cutting edge of technology. Not to be outdone, the Calverton Sewage Treatment Plant is about to undergo another major upgrade. Undergo its first major upgrade. The Calverton Sewage Treatment Plant was built in 1970. It's a secondary treatment plant with no nitrogen removal. The plant discharges directly into the Peconic Estuary. Through the help of Senator Laval, we were able to obtain $6.3 million in grants to upgrade the Calverton Sewage Treatment Plant to a tertiary treatment plant to remove the nitrogen, and we will relocate the discharge north of the groundwater divide and outside of the Peconic Estuary. Real projects that have real results to protect our environment and our way of life. I'm going to ad lib here a little bit because I need to talk about farming a little bit. And I want to talk about the craft brewing industry that is beginning to form in Riverhead. In 2010, the boys from Long Island came to my office and they said, we want to open a craft brewing facility. We want to do it in Riverhead. We worked with them, and I'm happy to say that they've relocated almost across the street in Polish Town. I'm also happy to say that John Gonzalez's son came home to farm hops in Wading River. I'm happy to say that we've got Twin Forks Brewery coming. We have Mustache Brewery here. And before long, you mark my words, Riverhead will be the microbrewing capital of Suffolk County. That's an amazing thing. What is more amazing is that not only will we be brewing fine beers, but we will also be growing and harvesting the barley and hops in Riverhead. It's an amazing. I want to thank Pat Weil for reminding me of that. The story of the town of Riverhead is about its people. It's about how we care for each other, how we protect our environment, and how we work together for a common good. You see, I believe the residents of the town of Riverhead are motivated by a calling. That God has called the residents to do great things for this town. That God has called the residents to do what is right every time, regardless of who's looking. That is what makes this town great. That is what has enabled me as your town supervisor to turn the ship of state by the stars and not the lights of the individual mastheads. It's been a long journey, and correcting the path of this ship has not been an easy one. But the course that we have charted has been called out for each and every one of us. Each and every one of us is called to do the right thing for this town and to continue to correct the problems of a bygone era. When we succeed, we will have good paying jobs at EPCAL, We will have a Main Street that is thriving, and we will have a town budget that is balanced, all by God's will. I want to take a moment to thank my partners in the town, on the town board for guiding this ship by the light of the stars. It has not always been easy, but it has always been rewarding. I want to personally thank the members of my staff. I'm not available. I want to personally thank the members of my staff, Heidi, Carol, Tara, and Jill. They've all been an invaluable sounding board to me, and I must admit they're not afraid of reminding me of my place. I also want to thank Joey Majorano from the CDA office. See, Joey helped me edit this. He did a great job, and so he deserves thanks. Finally, I want to thank the members of my family, my sons Zachary, Timothy, and Gregory, and especially my wife Kathleen for allowing me to do this job. I could not possibly do this job without the love and support of my family. It is through their love and support and my faith that we continue to make this town the greatest town in Suffolk County. I want to thank all of you for coming out tonight. Please have a safe trip home. May God bless you all.